Okay, this equation here says solve for x, and it's an interesting equation. Certainly looking at it, I think probably you could probably guess at the answer. But what I want to do is go through some work on it. And what I mean by guess at the answer, if someone told you that there was an integer solution to the problem, you could probably make a stab at it. One thing before going forward, though, if you were told a solution, I wouldn't do any work on it. I would just simply say, I wonder what integer would give me that. And certainly, you could try, simple integers like x equals 0. And what would you get over there? Well, unfortunately, what you get over there, on bottom, you get 1 minus 1, which is 0, so that's not a possibility. Then you might say, oh, gee, let me try x equals 1. What would you get over there? You would get 8 minus 2 on top, relatively simple, by the way. And then you get 6 minus 3 on bottom. Well, 8 minus 2 is 6, and 6 minus 3 is 3, and you get 2. So I'm going to say if you were told it was an integer, in other words, if the question said x is an integer, you at least found one solution to the problem. All right, but the question comes is, if they weren't told that, you were just simply going through the problem, what would you do? I would say just try to rewrite it. And the first thing I would do is, I notice the top is powers of 2's. So for example, 8 is actually 2 cubed. So what I would do is write down 8, right, as 2 cubed. And as I know it's 8 to the x, by the way. Oops. So what would that give me? That would give me 2 to the 3x, and that's why that's written over here, and 2 to the x over there. The next thing I notice about the 6 in the bottom, let me get my eraser out to erase some of this scratch work I'm putting down. Right? So the top I'm pretty good with, and the bottom I'm seeing 6 to the x. And I'm going to get in terms of 2's, and what do I get? I would get 2 times 3 to the x, which really means 2 to the x times 3 to the x. All right, and that's where that's coming over here. So I'm pretty comfortable with this stage over here. All right, the next thing I do is I try to factor the top and the bottom. And the top, I notice that just looking at it, I'll write this down the side for you. I know that it's 2 to the 3x minus 2 to the x, and the bottom is 3 to the x times 2 to the x minus 3 to the x. Well, on the bottom, it looks really simple. I see 3 to the x coming out. And then when you see there, you see 2 to the x minus 1. On top, I'm going to factor out 2 to the x. And what would that give you? Let's take a look at it. That would give you 2 to the 2x, because 2x plus x is 3x, minus 1. All right? I want to show you where that's written. That's written right over here. All right? So then what I do, I notice I got a square problem. All right? Let me get my eraser out. I'll erase all this business over here, okay? Whoops, eraser. Okay, so I'm gonna look at the top, and I notice I got 2 to the 2x minus 1, and it's a difference of perfect squares. What would you get? 2 to the x minus 1, 2 to the x plus 1, a difference of perfect squares. And that's where this is coming from over here. Whoops. That's where this is coming from. All right, so let's go forward, and certainly one step at a time, so to speak. All right, what do you get over here? Well, looking at it, I notice a factor cancels, again, provided it's not 0. And by the way, x can't be 0, so the bottom wouldn't be 0, because 2 to the 0 would be 1, and 1 minus 1 is 0. So that's fine. So I get something, again, as far as I'm concerned, it's almost like another dead end, but at least it's got a little bit simpler. So I would get, I get this on top, that on bottom, and I look at that, and then what I do is I'm going to say this is a dead end. All right, so I'm going to, put down this finally, and I'm going to say this is, to me, this is no easier than looking at this one over here. However, I did get some of the, the bigger numbers out of the picture. So I'm still in that situation. If I were not told this were integer, I would start saying, gee, I wonder how I could solve that. And I'm going to say there's no real easy way to solve that problem at this stage, all right? So what I would do over here is I'd say I would graph it, right? So I want to point out when you graph it, and I did do that for you, and I'll point out what I'm graphing over here. I'm graphing out f of x equals this, and that's the, the left-hand side of the equation, and I'm graphing this out over here, because I want to see what's happening. I want to see what's happening. So let's look over here, and I want to point out what I'm graphing. This over here is the f of x. And what's the f of x? This is the f of x. And this over here is the g of x. All right? So what I'm looking at, I definitely see 2 points of intersection. I hope you realize these things go on forever in those directions, by the way. Whoops, sorry about that. And I'm seeing what appears to be 2 points of intersection. Now, what's the point over here? It looks like it's 0, 2. And the point over here looks like it's going to be 1, 2. All right? And the thing about this point over here, it may be on G. This point may be on G, but it's not on F. And why is it not on F? If I chose X to be 0, I'd get division by 0. I don't want that to happen. So there's only one solution I could come up with over here, and that would be X equals 1. Right? Let's go back, and I want to verify that for you. I want to verify it here. X equals 1. And if you plug in 1, what do you get? You would get 2. And then what do you get up here? You would get 3. Why is that? If X is 1, you get 2 plus 1, which is 3. On the right-hand side, what do you get? You would get 2 times 3. It's the same, certainly. I want to point out, though, X equals 0 is also a solution to this particular equation. Let's go for that. What would you get? 1. And then if you put 0 in, you get 2. If you put 0 on the other side, what do you get? You get 2 times 1, which is certainly true. So I'm going to say this equation here is not equivalent to this equation up here. They have different solutions over here. So you shouldn't be checking it here, by the way. Where should you check it? You should check it here. So I'm going to say X equals 1 is the only solution. We know 0 doesn't work there. Let's just check it. What do you get on top? 8 minus 2. What do you get on bottom? 6 minus 3. 8 minus 2 is 6. 6 minus 3 is 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2. There's only one solution to the equation, X equals 1. Thank you for paying attention.